Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Rethinking Balance Sheets and welcome to our show. And as we kick off this show, just a quick little plug here for Nicole. So here goes. Welcome, everyone, and welcome to Rethinking Balance Sheet. And as we have every Friday at 10 a.m. Malaysia, 9 a.m. in Indonesia, and much earlier in India and other parts of the world, we have Ravi Navaratnam, my co-host, to join me as we talk about balance sheets, as we talk about finance, as we talk about restructuring, as we talk about transformation. We talk about a lot of stuff, right, Ravi?
Hey,
And,
morning,
and, and,
Roshan.
and, and good morning. And we get very excited about some of the things we're talking about. But today, we're going to journey to Indonesia, right, Ravi?
Absolutely, Roshan. Uh, it's exciting. It's like we were just talking before the show, Roshan. It's an exciting place. I was just talking. Philip was also talking about it a little bit about where home of unicorns in Southeast Asia in a
Yep.
big way. A
Yep.
lot of things happening in Indonesia, largest market in Southeast Asia by a long way. But I was just throwing in that other part. There is going to be a major commodity boom taking place already. Yeah, it's already taking place, and we know Indonesia is rich in natural resources. So it's the place to be going forward. And like I said, a lot of exciting stuff. Yes, we had last week we had Puva on the show with Financier.
Yep.
Again, the kind of stuff that we said, look, we're not, well, times are tough, but the tremendous innovation that's happening with this pandemic is here. It's here to stay. It's almost like I always think a little bit like when the Second World War we had radar, we
Yeah.
had jet engines, we had penicillin, we had the list goes on. We've had modern computers, a Turing machine. It just goes on, and I think with this pandemic, the amount of innovation we are seeing with just one type of vaccines, mRNA, to just the way we do business, work from home, it's been a big shift. So when we get
Mm.
onto the other side and the vaccines kick in and end the pandemic, there's an exciting world out there.
Yep, and nothing like a crisis to bring out the best in all of us, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, we are going to talk about our SME Spoilt for choice with non-fee financing. Tell us a bit about what that means.
Well, I think I'm not quite sure of the spoil for choice. Certainly, maybe that was I think from an Indonesian perspective, but I think I wouldn't dare say that in Malaysia. I think we were still trying. We've had MDV on board, we had Financier on board. We'll have more people on board to help with that. I know there's pain out there in the SME space, but spoil for choice, I don't know, but more choice, I think we can safely put our money on that one. Yeah, more choice, definitely we can put more our money on that one. Yeah, we certainly spoke about bank financing as well. That part was done, but even banks, I think, to be fair to the banks, they've expanded their services significantly here. Yeah, for for SME financing, they've all got special commercial sections and so forth. So they've also been rolling out the product. So yes, more I would say. Spoiled, I doubt. If you spoke to most entrepreneurs here in Malaysia, I would say spoiled for choice.
Not yet, huh? Not yet. Huh?
Not quite yet.
So so and then we got quite a few guests. Anil's shouting out, "Good morning!" It's another good morning from Dr. Deva, and of course Sashi's shouting out, "Good morning!" So I mean, a couple of folks are on board. Welcome to the show, everyone. We're going to be having some special guests today. We have Pak Ivan Tambunan from Indonesia, and also Pak Philip Lau. We'll pack him up to upgrade him to be a sort of an Indonesian by trade by for the show today. So Philip, welcome to the show. Ivan, welcome to the show. Glad to have both of you here today. Ivan, you want to start a little bit by introducing yourself, telling us a bit about yourself, and maybe share a little bit about Indonesia, maybe.
Yeah, thanks. Good morning, Roshan, Ravi, Philip, and everyone that's online. So I'm very happy to be here. I'm Ivan. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Akseleran. So Akseleran is a marketplace lending platform in Indonesia that connect SMEs with crowd lenders, both retail and institutional. So my background, I was a transactional banking lawyer working at Allen and Overy in their Jakarta and London office, doing syndicated lending. I did my master's in London, and I wrote a dissertation on crowdfunding back in 2014. And after that, I thought crowdfunding is a really great way to pull fund from the crowd and to distribute it to the people that need the funding. And it's particularly interesting for Indonesian market because Indonesia has a huge SME, okay, more than 60 million MSMEs. SMEs provide about 90% of the job opportunities here. But the issue is Indonesian SMEs are facing what we call a funding gap. Okay, this funding gap hinders the SMEs to grow faster, and this funding gap has been there for a very long time. And the reason is because whenever SMEs they want to borrow from financial institutions, particularly from banks, they are always required to provide collateral in the form of fixed assets. Okay, fixed assets meaning lands and buildings. And that always has been the issue. Okay, even not only in Indonesia, I think in Southeast Asia or
Sure.
in
Yeah.
Asia in general.
Yep.
Uh, Jack Ma protested in China and he got into trouble. But basically, what he mentioned was that banks act like a pawn shop, right? Uh, so this is what we call as an asset-based lending. Okay, that's always been the case, but I totally understand why it's like that, why banks behave like that, because it's driven by regulation. Okay, banks need to be prudent. Banks need to make sure that if the loan goes into default, then they have a collateral in place that they can liquidate. That's why they do this asset-based lending. Okay, but that is not very suitable for SMEs because SMEs they lack fixed assets. What they have is cash flow. Okay,
Mm.
so this is what we're doing. We want to provide lending product that is cash flow based. So it's a cash flow based lending, and then we connect these SMEs that have cash flow with a variety of lenders. It can be banks, it can be financial institutions, but it can also be the crowd, the
Mm.
retail lenders, people like you and me. Now, through this marketplace lending platform, we can do that. And that's what we're doing here through Akseleran, Roshan. Maybe that's
Okay.
a quick intro here.
And
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Yeah. And
out of
yeah.
curiosity, sorry,
Go ahead.
just out
Go
of
ahead.
curiosity for our crowd there, who's on the other side of the balance sheet, who want to lend, who's got big assets, how much would I get if I invested, if I wanted to do some lending in Indonesia? Is it on rupiah or on US dollars? What do you do?
Yeah, so it's in rupiah.
Yeah.
Typically, in our platform, right now the average net interest income after NPL, okay, it's about 13.5% annually, Ravi.
So if I was a lender to your platform, how much would I get?
13.5% net.
13.5%. That's fairly good returns, yeah.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
So
You
we
learn
have a
something every time you come to
so
rethinking balance sheets.
we know where Ravi's money is going to go in the next couple of weeks. Yeah. So
And
we've
that's
got
the magic, that's the magic with marketplace lending platform. You can actually become a lender in our platform with as low as 7 USD. Okay, that's a very low threshold. The idea is
wow.
we really want to create a financial inclusion, not only for the SMEs, but for the people in general to be able to invest, right, and generate better return for their money. So we have about more than 150,000 lenders right now, from the people with lower income up to high net worth individuals. And we also work with various financial institutions, including some of the largest banks in Indonesia, like Mandiri, BCA, and others. Yeah.
So if
Fantastic.
I were to say, if just to give somebody a fair comparison, what would that rate you're offering 13.5 compared to the fixed deposit rate, a 12-month fixed deposit rate in or a 6-month fixed deposit rate in from a high street bank in Indonesia?
So the fixed deposit rate is about 5%, Rafi, right now. Yeah.
It's almost 3 times more. Huh? So
Yeah.
we've got a couple of folks more just joined in. Jinhui is saying hello. I think a lot of people are excited about Indonesia. Dr. Deva says concur with Ravi. Indonesia has vast market potential. I was an advisor to LSAF in Jakarta. Anil likes saya suka susana di
Suasana
Indonesia.
Yeah.
Suasana di Indonesia. Okay. Suasana. I thought it was a girl called Susanna. Okay. Hello, everyone.
Ishan, if I may interject there very quickly.
Sure.
One of the reasons why I also invited Pak Ivan for this morning's session is because I realized that, with Malaysian and Singaporean companies, many of them also have businesses out there in Indonesia. And at some stage, maybe they might need to tap the market there to raise finance, And, having this platform and knowing about it, this is perhaps one of their ways to access more capital out there.
Absolutely, and I think it's fantastic. And Pa Ivan, just to follow through, right? Tell us a bit about your journey of getting to Akseleran. How did it happen? What's the story behind it? And how ultimately did it transpire?
Okay, so I mentioned 2014, I wrote a dissertation on crowdfunding. Back then, there was no proper crowdfunding platform in Indonesia. And I was thinking this is a really good opportunity to bring the concept. Okay, so 2017, we decided to launch Akseleran in March 2017, initially as an equity crowdfunding platform. We raised an angel equity round just from friends and families initially to launch the concept. We quickly learned that equity crowdfunding is not suitable to Indonesian market, okay, because the financiers, the funders, the investors, they prefer fixed asset and short-term tenor, okay, and equity is not a fixed term and short-term investment. So we quickly pivoted and relaunched the platform in October 2017 as a marketplace lending platform. We also launched several equity funding round, okay, the seed round, pre-series A round, series A round from various investors and venture capital. In October, I remember when we launched the first 6 months, we managed to disburse 2.2 million USD loans. So the first 6 months, 2.2 million USD. And we grow from there. Right now, we are disbursing more than 10 million USD a month. Okay, so it's been a huge difference compared to the 2017, 2018 time. And the main products that we provide right now is in the form of invoice and pre-invoice financing. This is basically a short-term working capital loan. So if you are a contractor or a supplier, okay, you're an SME that works for big companies, you supply goods or services for these companies, you've completed the work, you've submitted your invoice, but typically you get paid after 2 to 3 months, okay? And because you need to wait, it hinders you to work on more projects because your cash flow is held there, right? So rather than waiting, now you have the solution of going to Akseleran and say, hey, I have this invoice and it's been validated. So in that case, we'll be able to provide 80% of the amount of the invoice to them with a maximum tenor of about 6 months. And this helps SMEs to work on more projects rather than waiting before they get, they are able to have more cash and do more projects. And in addition to invoice financing, we also do what we call as a pre-invoice financing. Pre-invoice financing meaning that you have a PO or a service order or a contract, you secured that, but you need working capital to complete the works. We can also do that, The assessment is more stringent on this aspect because there is still a performance risk, okay? But we can also provide the funding for that. And this really allows SMEs to do more work, okay? And, initially they don't want to take 3 works at the same time because of the constraint on the cash flow. Now they can do it because of the invoice and pre-invoice financing facilities from us. As a result, we've seen SMEs that have grown their revenue even by more than 2 times after they get into our platform. We've seen a lot of online lenders, okay, people that sell their products through e-commerce marketplace, for example, to increase their revenue because they are now able to stock more inventories. So we also have this online merchant financing program that is not invoice or pre-invoice financing, and we do the assessment purely based on the transactional data. Okay, but the concept is the same. We don't rely on fixed assets on our assessment. We rely on the cash flow of the SMEs.
Yep. And I think that's very powerful. Looking at the cash flow, and typically, what's the process like? And the deal size. I mean, you're talking about SMEs, right? Generally, so how big is the disbursements generally, and what's the like start to end kind of process look like?
Okay, so for the invoice and pre-invoice financing facilities, typical ticket size is about 70,000 USD. Okay, so it's pretty, that's not very small. It's for mid-sized SMEs, but we also have this online merchant product, online merchant financing with a typical ticket size about 5,000 USD. Okay, so we can serve both market, those with the smaller SMEs and those with the mid-sized SMEs. But the data that are available for these two kind of segments is different. Okay, for the mid-sized SMEs, typically what we do is we ask them to provide us with in-house financial statement and their 3 months bank account statement, and also their underlying documents. Underlying documents meaning their invoice or their pre-invoices. Okay, we do the assessment. Typically, the assessment takes about 3 to 5 working days. Okay, and once they are approved, they get a credit line, a revolving credit line that they can draw down from time to time. Whenever they want to do a drawdown, they only need to submit their underlying document, and then we can do the funding within 1 day. Okay, so initially it takes about 3 to 5 working days for the assessment, but once you've been approved with a revolving line, you can draw it down from time to time only within a day. Okay,
sorry, go on, continue.
Yeah, so that's for invoice financing. For online merchant financing, it's even faster because we don't need you to provide us with a financial statement. What we do is we take a look into your transactional data. So we typically partner up with e-commerce platforms like these unicorns like Tokopedia, Bukalapak, and other platforms. They provide us with the transactional data. We assess from their transactional data the debt capability of the online merchants. Okay, and whenever they want to take loans, usually it takes only 1 to 2 days to do the assessment, and then we provide them with the funding, with the working capital. Yeah.
And in terms of the one which is really interesting, I think which is unusual, is when you said you're willing to do purchase orders financing, right? How are you able to do that? Because if I have no idea of the construction sector, how do I know you're going to perform? What kind of customers on the other side, etc. How will I even get a feel for a contractor, or even if it's an IT technology contractor like MDV here just specializes in IT, they can finance it. How do you actually make that assessment on PO? Or is it a very low? Is it your loan to how much you give against the PO is a smaller number? How do you go about that?
Yeah, so for PO financing, the process is more stringent than invoice financing. So typically, we only fund the works that the borrowers have done before.
I see.
And more preferably with the same payer. okay, with the same work provider. Okay,
Right.
so it's a recurring works. So we know that this borrower has the capability to complete the work before, and then we
Yeah.
can also assess that the payer has paid the works before as well. Okay,
Right.
so then we just need to make sure that our funding is not side stream. Okay, side streaming is the main issue for PO financing. So what we do is we also control the drawdown. We don't provide the funding freely to the borrower. Typically, we control the use of proceeds to make sure that the money is used to complete the works. So that's what we do, Pak.
Oh, tremendous. Tremendous.
And
This,
to be honest, a lot of people initially were skeptical. How about the risk, right? Turns
Yeah.
out NPL is one of the best in the market. So cumulatively, our NPL right now stands. This is not NPL, about 0.15% from our total loan
Wow.
disbursement.
that's
On gross
amazing.
level, okay, on gross level, that means this is before write-off, before insurance, okay. For 2020 loan books, this is during COVID, the NPL on gross level was about 0.5%, okay. And we have a credit insurance that covers 90% of the principal. So because the gross level was at 0.5%, the net is less than 0.1% for
Yeah.
2020
You've got credit
loan.
insurance?
Yes, we use credit insurance to cover 90% of the principal.
Wow.
Nice. And Philip,
It
just
looks like Indonesia leaps ahead of Malaysia, and
it looks that way, huh?
I think it's an eye opener for all of us.
Philip, just to drag you in. I mean, this non financial institution, non FIs, right? Like Akseleran and others, right? I mean, SME should be leveraging this much more, right? Especially in this pandemic times, right? Your thoughts here, right? On why this is important, and or more importantly, in other countries like Malaysia and so on, what alternatives like this would be in existence to the banks,
Thank you, Roshan. Um, for us here, yes, you're right. When the bank financing is drying up and the banks are going a little bit more cautious, and you have to start looking for alternative sources. The problem with many of these SMEs here, they live almost from a day-to-day basis, so they need to
right?
find that quickly. And one of the hindrances there are all these procedures when you go to the banks, and banks also being in a very cautious mood now, given the environment that we are all operating in. So they have to really start looking elsewhere, and these P2P platforms are natural place for them to be really thinking hard about finding the financing for moving their business ahead. The other sort of traditional sources that you can go to, but it will take a little bit longer, would be, you still go through your venture capitals and the private equity. But the
Yeah.
problem here is, well, there are many benefits for going to those sources. You don't have speed on your side here. Because venture cap, they will take
Take
a
time,
long
yeah.
time to do their due diligence. So with private
Yeah.
equity, private equity is a little bit better because normally they will be looking at companies which are growing, need working capital. They've already got some form of track record already, and arguably they can be faster in the processing, but still it takes time. Yeah. And then there's obviously that issue of potential dilution, once we invite
Yeah, absolutely.
and not many of them maybe are thinking that many of these SMEs, when they start, they hold everything for themselves, and they have the feeling that I haven't grown my company to its best ever potential yet, and I don't want to dilute just at this stage because I'll be selling myself short. So then what are the alternatives? Yeah, the P2P type platforms are excellent.
Excellent. Yeah.
But
Let me let me get to a couple of comments from people and some questions also. So, good morning from Madhukar. Dr. Deva again, talks a bit about, as a former banker, we have to comply with central bank, BNM, strict regulations on credit, financing, and prudent risk. And he follows up with a question or question. Moving forward, I feel, and this is to reinforce what Phillips just said, I feel SME businesses ought to be viable against the backdrop of the COVID pandemic. Access to private funding ought to be regulated to mitigate risk, right? Utilize digitization in business to maximize these. Anil comes back and says, he loves Indonesia and loves the people of Indonesia. So, Pak Ivan, and I've got a couple more Indonesia rocks. Indonesia rocks over here, and a follow through on your point on NLPs in Indonesia and the non-performing loans. It's awesome to see the rates are so low in Indonesia, and the fact that SMEs contribute nearly 30% of the GDP of unemployment, and 90% as you stated, Pak Ivan, earlier on. So some comments out there, quick reactions, Philip or
Yes,
Pak
I'll start.
Ivan.
For this low NPLs, I would say it's not in general for Indonesia. For Pak Ivan's Akseleran, that may be the case because I think it's been run very well here. But I can tell you, I spent 5 years out there in Indonesia, and I was dabbling also as helping a conglomerate too with like credit guarantee type insurance, and I've seen some really horrifying NPL levels. So it's not across the board. It's very unique to Akseleran, and it's an amazing job you're doing, Pak Ivan.
I think so, but just a couple of things to pick on this one. I think a lot of I spent a long time with Ibra in Indonesia as well. Jakarta, the Indonesian crisis, the NPLs were unbelievable. Even 80-90%, which all the loans in the bank going bad, which I think you need to be some skill to do that anyway. But that's another story. But coming back to what I like, and I certainly hope people in Malaysia are listening. I'm not sure. We'll try to find out if there's similar stories in Malaysia. But what I like is that PO financing, the invoice financing, Financier talked about it last week. PO financing, of course, MDV, but that's fairly large and sophisticated stuff. But the other one which seemed pretty interesting is the tying up with the digital market, and that allows the big data and the transactional analysis to lend quickly. That's interesting because we know more and more stuff's going online with COVID, especially you can't have physical retail, functioning properly. So again, I'm just really wondering if there's anything out there in Malaysia, if anybody's heard that similar stuff. That's something that's very, very interesting. Today we're hearing from Pak Ivan.
Pak Ivan, if I may, I'd like to understand also for the SMEs who have accessed your platform. Have they come back regularly after the first attempt and the first disbursement? Have you seen that market grow for all these repeat, if I may say, repeat customers?
Yeah, so we have a really high repeat rate. Okay, about 85% of our monthly disbursement is to existing borrowers. So the level of stickiness is very high because once you are able to finance your invoice or your PO, the next time you have an invoice available or the next time you secure another PO, you will come back and get more funding. And that really helps the SMEs to grow. That's why our borrowers, some of them even have more than 100% revenue growth. Okay, more than 2 times revenue growth after they come to our platform. And I think what mentioned by Pak Ravi, we use our credit scoring model. We build it, initially in 2017. We tweak it out. Okay, we had some NPL problem back in 2019. So 2019, we disbursed about $70 million in a year. Okay, we grew about 4 times compared to 2018, but it was too aggressive. Okay, it was too aggressive. 4 times growth in the lending industry is very aggressive. So the NPL spiked to about 1 point something percentage. Even for us, that's already high. And we learned from that. We tweaked the scoring model. We put a more stringent formula in the model. And we also put some additional measures like joint account arrangement and others. You mentioned about credit insurance. Credit insurance, it took time as well. Initially, there was almost no credit insurance providers that want to work with us. But after we show the track record, now there are plenty of options available. And I agree, the NPL, typically NPL is not good when it involves SME because of the high risk. This is the beauty of doing a cash flow based lending rather than asset based lending. Okay, the typical process is that you just ask the business to provide fixed assets and then you provide the funding. You don't care about the cash flow. Okay, and that's not the best way to proceed for us, because we've taken a look at the cash flow from day one. We already know the source of the repayment. Okay, that's going to be from the payment of the invoice or the payment of the PO. So that's why the NPL is pretty low. We just need to make sure that it's not fraud. We just need to make sure that the funding is not side stream.
Just an interesting question is, if, how are the banks reacting to, I suppose there are far more platforms in Indonesia. How are the banks reacting to the new competition from you guys and, and your fellow, platforms?
Okay. Yeah, this is an interesting question. People ask, are we disrupting banks? The answer to that is no. Okay, there is no way we can disrupt banks because of the difference of cost of fund. Okay, right. We can never compete with the cost of fund of banks. Typically, what we do is we target different market segment. We don't target businesses that can provide fixed asset as collateral. We target businesses that can rely only on their cash flow to provide funding. Banks do not serve this, okay, or they are typically underserved. In fact, Ravi, interesting take, about 50% of our borrowers actually have existing bank facilities.
Yeah, okay. I can imagine so.
Yeah, they have existing bank facilities, but they need more working capital, and they cannot get more because they are running out of fixed assets.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
imagine that, because we've done funding for some of smaller companies in the old days, and that's exactly the same. Because even if you're doing working capital and they're actually doing the invoice financing, via BATR, whatever it is, but they want the fixed asset to match also some coverage of that. This one with fixed assets, so they'll run out. So they're always looking for additional sources, and you're not going to get another bank to come in to take that out. And I think it makes sense. Again, what you're saying, if I was a SME, maybe the thing there is to use the bank financing, enjoy the lower cost, use your fixed assets to borrow cheaper, and then build on top of that to grow your business using platforms. So you're right, it's probably very complementary.
Yeah, and just from pricing perspective, okay, the reason why they come back, they keep coming back, Pak Philip. Typically, these SMEs, they pay about 1.5 to 2% per month. Okay, typical tenor is about 3 to 4 months. If they borrow for 3 months, that means they pay about 4.5 to 6%. And the typical margin that they earn from each project, from each work, is about 20-ish percentage. So they still enjoy 20-ish percentage minus 4.5 to 6% cost of fund. They still enjoy a relatively good margin there. That's why they keep coming back, Pak Philip.
That's interesting, because you've got a far faster growing economy than us. Here, the economy is a little bit mature. Banks are, your SMEs are struggling at 7% returns now. And when banks charge 6 to 7%, there's virtually nothing there for the shareholder, for the promoters of the business.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a different market.
Yeah, and you know what? We're going to take a 30-second break. We'll be right back here right after a quick call out to Nicole. So let's take a quick break. We'll be back here with Pak Ivan and Pak Philip and Pak Ravi. Hold on, right there.
Bro, apa dia? Aku message kau 50 kali, tak balas. Alah bro, aku tak ada time lah bro message. Aku sekarang tengah Nicole bro. Nicole lah, itu dia in sekarang. Tengah trending tengah kacau. Kau cakap apa? Apa tu? Nicole. Kau tak tahu Nicole? Google kau tahu? Nicole kau tak tahu? Tak, Nicole app untuk belajar bro. Semua tengah belajar guna Nicole sekarang. CEO semua tengah guna Nicole.
Share sikit lah.
Boleh bro, kau tengok macam ni bro.
Okay.
Kau kalau kau lembab, kau kena Nicole bro.
Memang aku lembab sikit sebenarnya.
Bro, kalau kau nak laju, kau nak top, kau nak jadi CEO, kau kena guna Nicole. Kau tahu kan pergi mana? Digital.dynamic.org. 200 je bro tahun.
Aku buat tu aku tak lembab dah
tak tahu bro kapasiti kau macam mana. Tapi aku rasa Nicole ni boleh tolong kau lah bro. Confirm.
Okay. Berapa?
RM200 je bro tahun.
Boleh lah duit raya pakai
Selamba bro. Ni kau tengok ni bro. Percaya bro, kau tengok ni. Ini daripada Howard bro. Power bro. Oi,
memang cantik.
Apa ni? Jangan ambil aku nya.
Okay.
Aduh.
Sorry. Aku teruja sangat lah.
Ni tak apa kita tunggu sini.
Welcome back, everyone, to Rethinking Balance Sheets. Today, we've got some fantastic guests. We've got Pak Ivan from Indonesia, who's with us with Akseleran. And of course, for those of you who don't know, there's a Nicole community. In fact, yesterday, I just joined a new book club community on Nicole. It was fun. You get to read books that you haven't read in a summarized fashion. So Nicole.app or Nicole.tech if you're a business looking at that. I thought maybe what we can do is talk a little bit, as we wrap this up, a little bit on the Akseleran business. And I just wanted to share a couple of websites. But Ivan, maybe you can share a little bit on can businesses outside of Indonesia leverage your website, or is this primarily for Indonesian businesses?
So under the regulation, we are only allowed to provide funding to Indonesian institutions or Indonesian nationals. Okay. Foreigners can be lenders, but they cannot be borrowers. So right now it's restricted to Indonesian borrowers, Roshan. But in Malaysia, I believe there are some marketplace lending platforms there. In fact, one of our main competitors, Funding Societies, they have presence in Malaysia. And I think they also offer invoice financing. So if you need that, you can try to get to them. Yeah.
And maybe Philip, I'm just going to show a couple more comments that are coming out and see your reaction. Again, Dr. Deva's like, I was a training advisor and professional lecturer. My opinion is Indonesia has vast potential to grow as an economic powerhouse in the ASEAN region. And he adds, enterprise risk management for SMEs is crucial, coupled with sound liquidity management and less gearing on equity. Your thoughts on that, Philip?
I think that's absolutely true. Sound cash management here, and how they turn it around and make sure that everything's in order. So if you want to keep going back to platforms like Akseleran, you really need to be able to show that you've demonstrated the closure successfully on your other invoicing, financing, and then you can go back and to be a repeat customer. That's absolutely true. So there's no running away from that. It's less, as I said, maybe about the gearing, because gearing, they don't really care anymore. They're just looking at one invoice to another, one project to another. As long as you close the previous project and the invoicing, financing on that successfully, then you can move on to the next one. Yeah, the sound cash management that you need to close eye on. Okay.
And Ravi, your thoughts on what we've heard so far?
Yeah, what I think is, it's just so true about these things. On financial services, just like any other industry, you need many people trying different stuff. Yeah, regulations. Yeah, you've got to be prudent. There's no question about it. And then you got to ask yourself, what risk and what's actually happening. But we can't be in a situation that it's tough to say this, but where people are so devoid of what's going on in the marketplace. And sorry to say, very large institutions have that kind of problem. Governments, very large telcos of FIs, somewhat out of touch from what's going on. So when you get somebody who's on the ground, hungry, that's going to make a big difference for any economy. Yeah, for any economy for that matter. And that's something policymakers need to be mindful of. Yeah, how they continue to shake up the marketplace, not just leave it to be static. Yeah, and Akseleran is just an amazing example of this. Yeah, I mean, let's never forget when AirAsia came to the market in Malaysia, it completely transformed the transportation sector. Yeah, it gave us far more choice. I suppose it's very much the same on financial services. Yeah, the best is yet to come.
Yep. I think so, and Indonesia, I think is leading the way as many of the others have commented. Now, if any of you have any comments or any questions for Pak Ivan or Pak Philip or Pak Ravi or any of the Paks on the shows, please feel free to shoot them in the comment section, and we'll get to them in a bit. And as we wrap this up, I want to go back to Pak Ivan and ask, what your final thoughts are, and I will share your website for those of our viewers in Indonesia. If you're an SME, you want to take advantage of this, go check out akseleranco.id. You'll be able to check out the services or the cash flow management financing services that's offered by them. But Ivan, your final thoughts, any comments or any thoughts that you would like to leave us with as we wrap up this show?
Yeah, I think for all the SMEs out there, you can grow faster if you have leverage. But to get leverage, to get that, you need to have data available. So make sure you have that data available. It can be in the form of conventional data like financial report or bank account statement, or a digital data like the transactional data. If you have those, you have that cash flow that you can show from that data, you can get funding. There's a lot of alternative out there. You can get that. At the same time, for people that want to generate better return for their money, right now there are a lot of alternative investment opportunities, including this marketplace lending platform, where you can not only generate return for your funding, but you can also help the SMEs to grow. I think that's all from me, Roshan.
Okay. And Philip, your thoughts. Especially on both the investor side also, and companies. What's some of the considerations that they might be they advise that you can impart to them, in terms of thoughts from today's episode.
I think for me, it's horses for courses. For investors, they've got many options here to play around with. P2P platforms like Akseleran is just one of them, So it's your risk appetite as well, I'm sure they know their risk appetite very well. But, you don't have to put all the eggs in one basket, just spread it around, and some might really hit home, and, you get a home run there, right? For the borrowers, I think sometimes it's good for them to just pause, have a look around and see what's available out there, apart from the normal traditional bank financing. Many of these SMEs, they're so busy on a day-to-day, sometimes even firefighting. They just not quite aware of what's available out there until maybe they hear it from their friends who have access to platforms like Akseleran or the equivalent in Malaysia. So sometimes it's also good to just pause, look, evaluate, and then see what's suitable for you. Those are my final thoughts.
And just a follow through, Ivan. You mentioned that SMEs in Indonesia can only leverage the platform for borrowing, but can investors invest from outside of Indonesia into the platform? Yes. Okay.
That's possible.
So
yes.
Okay. So watch out today. You'll see a big chunk coming in from Ravi. So
foreign
beware of
direct investment.
that big amount coming in. I've got a couple of questions that are coming in from the masses. So before I get Ravi to share, just couple of quick questions is, what are your thoughts on FDI per capita attraction? Singapore's way ahead at USD 19K per person per capita. How can we compete? And we, I assume Malaysia and Indonesia, for a roaring startup, it's a no-brainer. It's got to be SG. You guys agree? Your thoughts? Any one of you?
I think we got to admit Singapore's ahead of the game. That one's for sure. But it's also a historical factor, because Singapore has always been the financial center, it's been the trading center. You're not talking about not just the more recent stuff that they've been doing. And a lot of stuff happened since 2000 when they got there far more in terms of that. But it goes back hundreds of years, as a trading post and so on. So Singapore is way ahead of the game. But I never see that as a problem, Roshan. I see that as a big advantage, especially for us in Malaysia. They're just an hour's flight away. Use it to our advantage. Yeah, you want to raise money there, etc. Use it. But I also see in terms of foreign direct investment, if you're a big multinational, some place where Singapore is offering you money, then it's an interesting place. But if you're setting up a business in Southeast Asia and you're an SME, and I see this with a lot of my friends, my kids' friends, the parents are in international school. If you're not flying first class Singapore Airlines, you don't need to go to the most expensive schools in Singapore. You want to set up a business to tap the Southeast Asian market. Good infrastructure at a very reasonable cost, a fraction of the cost of Singapore, and you're not getting any money from the Singapore government, then I think KL is one of the places to be. Fairly safe, clean streets. Earlier days, also top on the list on managing COVID. Hopefully, we'll be back on that one as well. Yeah,
unlikely now.
Very, very great place. You may have 24 flights from Singapore to Bangkok, but 10 flights is enough. You can find your time to Bangkok from KL and Asia. So if it's your own business, you're not going to look on flying Singapore Airlines business class. You want to send your kids to a very good international school, fraction of the cost. You want good medical, be it Pantai or Prince Court, Asunta. Any of them are here. So great place for you to set up SME business from if you're coming from an international perspective to set up in Kuala Lumpur. Yeah.
And Pak Ivan, your thoughts on Indonesia and Singapore?
Yeah, I think Singapore is a hub, okay, but it's not the market. The market for Indonesian businesses is clear. It's Indonesia. It's the largest market in Southeast Asia.
Yep.
To create your holding company in Singapore, that's something that is that makes sense. Okay, but your operation will be here in the market. It can be Indonesia, it can be Malaysia, it can be Vietnam, but Singapore serves as the hub. We ourselves, we raise fund and we are supported by foreign VCs. Okay, we are supported by foreign VCs from Japan, from Hong Kong, from Singapore. So it makes sense. I think, like what Ravi said, use it for your advantage.
Okay, and I got a final question, and I think it's more to Philip, but I mean, you guys can jump into what is your view on fintech applications to enhance economic growth and expected ROI in SMEs for venture capitalists? You want to start with that, Philip?
Yeah, for the VCs, those are the sort of things that they would like to focus on. They're high growth type businesses, but as many of them are popping up, which are the ones which are really going to be a success story? That's the key to it. They really do need to do their due diligence, and for whatever offering that these companies have for the VCs, it's really got to be robust. Everybody has an idea for sure, but to get it to that next stage, that's the challenge.
I think the question was what kind of ROIs they were looking at. The ROI you're looking at is north of 15% for sure.
Yeah.
I know some of the top PE funds and private equity have done 5x as well over a 3 to 5 year period. That's at the top end. I see some of the better ones in Malaysia are actually easily doing that. And some expectations as low as 12.5% even for the government type funds. Yeah. So that's the kind of numbers you're looking in terms of ROIs. Yeah.
Okay.
For VCs, definitely.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Just before I get Ravi's final take, I'm going to do a quick plug for a very innovative global internship program. So today, with the advent of exciting virtual workplace, you can work from anywhere in the world. And Liramix has actually now a fully remote global internship. So anywhere in the world, you can be a UCL, Imperial College, Duke University in the US, and you can be interning here in Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, India, and other places where Liramix has his office. So for those of you We're looking for about 20 to 30 global interns from not of these countries, but from anywhere else in the world. Feel free to go and look at tinyurl.com LGIP 2021, and you can apply for these global internships. So with that, I want to just get back to Ravi as we close out this session. So we also want to take advantage. I mean, the Ravis also want to take advantage of the fact that it's a virtual world and you can get talent from anywhere. Why not get interns from everywhere? But Ravi, I mean, just to close out and wrap up, your key takeaways for today. Lessons learned, ideas, applications, and other things that we can leverage off today's episode.
I think this is true of every episode. Just listening, talking, getting people, exchanging ideas. It's wonderful what we're doing. On this again, just coming back, it's always that balance sheet. This is obviously on the credit side of the balance sheet when you need to finance your assets, which are working capital, short-term working capital. Lots of good ideas. I think we'll go back. We'll look for more stuff around this because I think, like I said, it's a difficult times. We'll come back. But on that note of difficult times, I think we also want to wrap up over the next couple of weeks. Roshan, you recall we did that whole series on restructuring. And what we hope to do is there was the mindset piece. We had the origination piece. We had the legal pieces. There are two more parts to that series, which is negotiation and execution. I think with the economies not really, perhaps with MCO3, perhaps over the next couple of weeks, we'll come back and wrap up that in the next couple of weeks. So I think people should tune on for your large or small. There's something really to be learned from those two series, which we're going to have coming up.
All right, fantastic. So thank you, Ravi, and Ivan, Philip, Ravi, thank you so much for your time. As always, we end with a quote: "An investment in knowledge pays the best interest." I hope you guys agree. On investment in education, as some would say. So with that, thank you so much. You've been a fantastic guest. I really appreciate your inputs. I think Indonesia is going to be a key focus for all of us for the next many years to come. With that, goodbye, everyone. And I'm going to end with a short little video and closure. All the best, everyone. Have a great weekend.